Tears outside the nurse's office. The overhead lights buzzed, bathing the deserted hallway outside the nurse's station in a clinical light. On patrol, Officer Riley spotted her right away. A tiny figure, hunched on the unyielding plastic seating, her frame trembling. Lily. The unmistakable faded pink backpack lay beside her, its unicorn mascot missing an eye, a familiar sight from his beat. He approached gently, his footsteps softened by the polished floor. "Hey Lily. Everything all right?" She didn't respond, just kept weeping, each sob a ragged, painful hitch that resonated deep within him. Kneeling, he brought himself eye level. Usually neat braids were now disheveled, dark strands plastered to cheeks slick with tears. He fought the impulse to comfort her with a touch, mindful of protocol, the crucial need for respecting boundaries, particularly with children. "Lily," he murmured, his tone gentle and soothing. "Can you tell me what's troubling you?" A shake of her head was the only reply, her face buried deeper into her knees. Silence descended, broken only by her quiet distress and the persistent drone from above. He waited patiently, recalling his own daughter's childhood hurts, the raw openness of a small person in pain. At last, after what felt like an age, she glanced up, her eyes swollen and brimming. I don't feel well," she managed, her voice thick with unshed tears. "Want to see the nurse?" He indicated the closed door. "Maybe you're running a fever." Another, more emphatic, shake of her head. "No, not the nurse." His brow furrowed, laced with concern. "All right. Then what is it, Lily? Can you tell me what's wrong?" Hesitation flickered across her face, her lower lip quivering. She scanned the empty corridor, as if searching for unseen listeners, and then leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. Mommy said don't tell," she confided, her breath warm against his ear. Or we'll both disappear." The words hung in the air, weighty with unspoken fear. A shiver crawled down Riley's spine, a cold premonition settling in his gut. Disappear? What did that imply? He drew back slightly, studying her expression. Disappear? Where would you go, Lily? She only shook her head again, tears resurfacing. "I can't say. Mommy said." "I know she said not to tell," Riley finished reassuringly. "But Lily, I'm Officer Riley. I'm here to help you. If something's wrong, it's okay to confide in me. I won't allow anything to happen to you or your mommy." His voice remained even, calm, projecting reassurance and trustworthiness. Experience had taught him that pressuring her would only deepen her fear. A faint violet mark caught his attention, a small bruise on her wrist, partly concealed by her sweater's cuff. Easily overlooked, but his training had sharpened his perception for these subtle clues. His stomach tightened. "Lily," he asked carefully, gently, "did you hurt your wrist?" She recoiled, retracting her arm, alarm widening her eyes. "No," she muttered, shaking her head. "I tripped." He didn't believe her. The discoloration didn't resemble a fall. It looked as if someone had gripped her too tightly. He shifted direction. "Lily, do you like unicorns?" He gestured toward the one-eyed unicorn adorning her backpack. She sniffled, a fleeting smile breaking through the tears. "Yes, that's Sparklehoof." "Sparklehoof, huh? Cool name. What happened to his eye?" Again she hesitated, then shrugged. "He lost it in a battle." Riley smiled, struggling to keep his expression relaxed. "A battle, huh? Must have been a hard-fought one." She nodded, her eyes gleaming with a spark of imagination, momentarily eclipsing her distress. "The hardest." He faced a dragon to rescue a princess. "Wow," Riley replied, genuinely impressed. "Sparklehoof sounds incredibly brave. It takes real courage to fight a dragon." Her gaze dropped to her lap, her smile faltering. "I'm not brave," she whispered. "Sure you are," Riley countered softly. "It takes courage to face school each day, even when you're not feeling well. It takes courage to talk with strangers. And it definitely takes courage to shield the ones you love." He paused, letting his words resonate. "Lily, sometimes the most courageous act is to speak up when something isn't right, even if it's frightening, even if someone instructed you to stay silent." Reaching into his pocket, he produced a small glittering sticker, a golden star. He offered it to her. This is for you, Lily. For your bravery. She eyed the sticker, then back at him, her gaze a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Tentatively, she reached out a finger, touching it as if it might vanish. Lily, he said, his voice earnest and low. I promise to do everything within my power to safeguard you and your mommy. But I need you to have faith in me. Can you do that? She studied him for a long moment, her small face burdened with worry. The lights hummed, the silence pressing in. He held his breath, waiting, hoping she would agree. Finally, she gave a nod, a subtle, almost imperceptible movement. Okay, she whispered. I trust you. Secrets and shiny badges. Riley pulled out his wallet, carefully flipping it open to a worn photo of Patches, his golden retriever. See this goofy guy? This is Patches. He's a very good listener, but he's terrible at keeping secrets. You can tell him anything and he'll just wag his tail. Lily's sniffles quieted slightly. Her eyes, still red-rimmed, followed Riley's finger as he pointed to Patches's lopsided grin. He looks fluffy. The fluffiest. He loves belly rubs. Tell you what, if you ever want to meet him, just let me know. He's always up for making a new friend. Riley kept his voice low and gentle, like he was sharing a secret of his own. He carefully returned the wallet to his pocket. Now, you said your mommy told you not to tell anyone something. Is it okay if you tell me? My badge means I'm here to help keep you safe, like a superhero, but without the cape. He tapped the shiny silver star pinned to his chest. It caught the fluorescent light of the hallway, sending a tiny sparkle across Lily's face. Lily stared at the badge, her gaze fixed on the gleaming metal. The hallway seemed to shrink around them, the sounds of distant chatter and slamming lockers fading into a dull hum. She chewed on her lip, a fresh wave of anxiety washing over her face. Riley waited, patient. He knew pushing her would only make her clam up. He focused on the small details, the way her fingers twisted in the fabric of her dress, the rapid blinking of her eyelids. He imagined the turmoil swirling inside her small body, the battle between fear and the need for help. Finally, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, she said, Mommy said don't tell about the mean man. Riley's heart clenched. The mean man? Who is that, Lily? He kept his tone even, neutral, as if they were discussing the weather. She shook her head, her eyes darting around the hallway as if he might appear at any moment. I don't know his name. Just the mean man. He comes sometimes. Mommy gets scared. Her voice trailed off and she hugged herself tighter. Riley resisted the urge to reach out and comfort her, sensing that physical touch might be overwhelming right now. He scares you too? Lily nodded, her lower lip trembling. He yells. And Mommy does what he says. The image of the bruise on her wrist flashed in Riley's mind. It wasn't just fear. There was something else there, a deeper, more profound terror. He needed to tread carefully. Does he hurt Mommy? Lily didn't answer directly. She just squeezed her eyes shut, 2 tears escaping and tracing paths down her cheeks. He makes her cry. Riley's jaw tightened. He hated seeing children hurt, especially when they were so obviously vulnerable. He took a slow, deliberate breath, reminding himself to stay calm, to stay focused. Lily, he said softly, I promise you I'm going to help. I'm going to help keep you and your mommy safe from the mean man. You don't have to be scared anymore. He hoped he sounded convincing. He needed her to believe him. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, brightly colored sticker. A cartoon ladybug with oversized eyes. This is for you. It's a lucky ladybug. Keep it with you and it will help keep the bad dreams away. Lily cautiously reached out and took the sticker, her fingers brushing against Riley's. She looked at the ladybug, her expression unreadable. Then she carefully peeled off the backing and stuck it on her dress, right over her heart. Thank you, she whispered, her voice a little stronger now. You're very welcome, Riley said. Now how about we go find the nurse? Maybe she has some juice and cookies. Does that sound good? Lily nodded, a faint smile flickering across her face. Okay. As they walked towards the nurse's office, Riley kept a watchful eye on Lily, noting the way she still flinched at sudden noises, the way she kept glancing over her shoulder. He knew this was just the beginning. He had a feeling that uncovering the truth about the mean man would be a long and difficult road. But he was determined to protect Lily and her mother, no matter what it took. He just hoped he wasn't already too late. Worries at the diner. The bell above the door chimed a cheerful greeting, a stark contrast to the knot tightening in Riley's stomach. He'd parked a block away, wanting to observe the diner before walking in. Davis's Diner, the neon sign proclaimed in looping cursive, the S flickering intermittently. It looked normal. Too normal. He took a deep breath and stepped inside, the aroma of frying bacon and brewing coffee washing over him. The diner was bustling with the late morning crowd, construction workers grabbing a quick bite, a couple sharing a newspaper, a lone trucker nursing a cup of joe. Mrs. Davis, a woman with a warm smile etched onto her face and her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, was wiping down the counter. Riley approached her, flashing his badge subtly. "Mrs. Davis? I'm Officer Riley. I was hoping I could have a word with you." Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second, then returned, seemingly brighter than before. "Officer? Is everything all right? Just a few questions about one of your employees, Sarah." Mrs. Davis's brow furrowed. "Sarah? Is she in some kind of trouble?" Her voice was laced with genuine concern. "Not at all, ma'am. Routine inquiry. I understand she's a good worker." "The best," Mrs. Davis said without hesitation. "Always on time, never complains. A real sweetheart. Been with me for about 6 months now." She gestured toward the back of the diner. "She's on her coffee run right now. Can I get you a cup while you wait?" Riley nodded. "That would be great, thank you." He slid onto a stool at the counter, his gaze drifting towards the back. He noticed the chipped Formica countertop, the well-worn vinyl seats, the comforting normalcy of it all. But beneath that veneer he sensed a current of unease, a subtle tension that hummed in the air. Mrs. Davis placed a steaming mug in front of him. "She's been a bit withdrawn lately. More than usual. I figured it was just stress. Single mother, you know? It's tough." Riley took a sip of the coffee, the bitter taste grounding him. "Has she mentioned anything specific? Anything bothering her?" Mrs. Davis hesitated, wiping her hands on her apron. "No, nothing specific. Just seems on edge. Jumpy. Like she's always looking over her shoulder." She paused, lowering her voice. "And Lily. Poor little thing. She used to be so bubbly. Now she's quiet. Clings to her mama like a little shadow." He nodded slowly. "I understand. Thank you, Mrs. Davis. You've been very helpful." Just then Sarah emerged from the back, pushing a cart laden with coffee pots. Her shoulders were hunched, her eyes darting nervously around the room. She was even thinner than he remembered from the school, her face pale and drawn. She moved with a hesitant grace, as if afraid of disturbing the delicate balance of the diner. As she refilled a customer's cup, her hand trembled slightly, causing a few drops to spill onto the counter. She flinched, her eyes widening in panic before quickly wiping it up with a cloth, muttering an apology. Riley watched her, his heart aching for the fear he saw etched on her face. It was the fear of someone who had been hurt, someone who was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. He caught her eye for a brief moment. She quickly looked away, her cheeks flushing. He could see the raw anxiety radiating off her in waves. He stood up, placing a few dollars on the counter. "Thank you for the coffee, Mrs. Davis." He gave her a reassuring nod. "I may be back to ask a few more questions later." As he walked out, he glanced back at Sarah. She was staring at him, her expression unreadable. He offered her a small, almost imperceptible smile, hoping to convey some sense of reassurance. But her eyes remained wide and filled with a deep, unsettling fear. He knew with a chilling certainty that this case was far more complicated than he initially thought. It wasn't just about protecting a child. It was about unraveling a web of fear and secrets that threatened to consume them all. Flowers and shadows. The address Mrs. Davis had provided led Riley to a low-income housing complex on the edge of town. The building was a faded yellow, paint peeling in strips like sunburnt skin. A single tired-looking rose bush clung to life near the entrance, its blooms a heartbreakingly cheerful contrast to the building's decay. He took a deep breath, adjusting the small, brightly colored sticker book he'd picked up at the corner store. It was a long shot, but kids usually like stickers. The apartment door, number 2B, was scarred with what looked like old scratch marks. He knocked gently, hearing a muffled "just a minute" from inside. Sarah opened the door, her eyes widening slightly when she saw him. She wasn't wearing makeup, and the shadows under her eyes seemed deeper than yesterday. Lily peeked out from behind her mother's legs, her small face wary. "Officer Riley," Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. "I wasn't expecting you." "I hope I'm not intruding," he said, holding up the sticker book. "I just wanted to check in. See how you and Lily are doing." Sarah hesitated, then stepped aside, allowing him entrance.
"Come in."
"Please excuse the mess." The apartment was small, sparsely furnished with mismatched pieces. A worn sofa sat against one wall, facing a small flickering television. A single bare bulb provided the only light. The air smelled faintly of stale coffee and something else. Something acrid, almost metallic. "Lily, why don't you show Officer Riley your drawings?" Sarah said, her voice strained. She steered Lily gently towards a small, round table in the corner, where a stack of colorful paper and a box of crayons sat. Lily remained glued to her mother's side for a moment. Then, with a shy glance at Riley, she moved to the table. He knelt down beside her, careful not to crowd her. "Wow, these are amazing," he said, genuinely impressed by the vibrant colors and intricate details in some of the drawings. There were pictures of princesses in sparkling gowns, soaring dragons breathing fire, and fields of sunflowers stretching towards a bright yellow sun. He noticed, however, that many of the drawings were incomplete, abandoned halfway through. He picked up a drawing of a house with a smoking chimney. The windows were blacked out, and the door was a jagged, angry line. "Did you draw this?" he asked gently. Lily nodded, her eyes downcast. "It's a very interesting house," Riley said. "Is everything okay in the house?" Lily didn't answer. She picked up another drawing, this one different from the others. It was done entirely in shades of gray and black. A large amorphous shape dominated the page, its edges blurred and indistinct. "What's this one?" Riley asked, keeping his voice neutral. Lily's voice was barely audible. "The shadow." "The shadow?" he repeated, his heart sinking slightly. "Can you tell me about the shadow?" Lily shook her head, her lower lip trembling. She pushed the drawing away, as if it burned her fingers. Sarah, who had been hovering nearby, rushed over. "Lily, honey, why don't you get Officer Riley some juice?" Her voice was too bright, too forced. As Lily went to the small kitchenette, Riley turned to Sarah, his gaze steady. "Mrs. Miller, I'm concerned. These drawings, they suggest something is wrong." Sarah wrung her hands, her eyes darting around the room. "She's just a child, officer. She has an active imagination." "I understand that," Riley said. "But the darkness in these drawings, it's not something I can ignore." He gestured to the drawing of the shadow. "What does that mean to her?" Sarah was silent for a long moment, her face a mask of fear. Finally she whispered, "It's just a bad dream. That's all." But her eyes, wide and haunted, told a different story. Lily returned with a juice box, handing it to Riley with a small, hesitant smile. He took it, offering her a reassuring smile in return. He pulled out the sticker book. "I brought these for you. Maybe you can use them to decorate your drawings." Lily's eyes lit up for the first time since he'd arrived. She carefully peeled off a sticker of a bright red heart and stuck it on the drawing of the sunflowers. It looked jarringly out of place, a small beacon of hope in a field of unease. As Riley watched Lily apply another sticker, a small yellow star, he knew he couldn't leave things as they were. The flowers and the shadows were intertwined, a dangerous and heartbreaking combination. He had to find out what was casting those shadows, and he had to protect Lily and Sarah from whatever darkness was lurking in their lives. The missing piece. The police station's buzzing fluorescence cast a pall over Riley's weary vigil. He'd swapped the familiar comfort of his cruiser for a tower of forgotten cases, a grim necessity if he hoped to unlock the secrets surrounding Lily. The precinct slumbered, the air heavy with old coffee and the sharp tang of cleaning fluid. Rubbing grit from his eyes, the image of Lily's haunting sketch remained vivid. He'd begun with the local missing persons directory, filtering for profiles that echoed Sarah. Women aged 25 to 35, blonde or light brown hair, with a child mentioned in the notes. Dozens emerged, each a separate tragedy etched in digital code. He navigated the gallery of lost faces, beaming portraits from yearbooks, blurred shop security stills, police composites sketched from fading recollections. Every entry a potential path, every path seemingly blocked. Hours dissolved into a caffeine-fueled blur. Just as he considered surrender, a file snagged his attention. Hope Ellis. Vanished 7 years prior. Age a match, 28 at the time she disappeared. Hair color, a sun-kissed blonde remarkably close. He clicked, his pulse quickening its rhythm. The photo, aged and slightly out of focus, showed Hope Ellis, her blue eyes piercing the lens. A certain vulnerability played across her features, a gentle curve to her lips suggesting inherent kindness. He magnified the image, scrutinizing every detail. A flicker of recognition stirred within him, a half-forgotten memory resurfacing. Jumping to the details, he scanned the entry. Height, 5 feet 5 inches. Build, slender. Distinguishing marks, small scar above left eyebrow, a birthmark gracing her right shoulder. Riley caught his breath. The scar. He recalled glimpsing it, a faint white line almost hidden by Sarah's bangs as she leaned to retrieve Lily's dropped crayons. He hadn't given it a second thought then, lost in the day's minutiae. But now? He pulled up Sarah's file. Its contents were frustratingly thin. No birthdate recorded, no previous address, no known family. It was as though she had simply materialized. He juxtaposed the images, Hope Ellis against the photo from Sarah's recent driver's license renewal. The differences were subtle, almost illusory. Sarah's hair was darker, pulled back tight in a severe style. Her face was leaner, marked by the etchings of worry. But the underlying bone structure, the angle of her jaw, the architecture of her nose, undeniably, they mirrored each other. He zoomed in on the eyes, those revealing windows. Hope Ellis's gaze held a spark of youthful optimism. Sarah's, conversely, were guarded, echoing deep-seated anxieties. Yet, beneath the surface, he discerned that same azure glint, the same fundamental self looking out through a different lens. He reread Hope Ellis's case file, hunting for any overlooked detail, any thread connecting to Sarah's present life. Hope had vanished from a small town 2 states away, leaving behind a grieving fiancé and a tightly knit family. No evidence of foul play, no trace of her destination. The investigation had stalled after mere months. Riley leaned back, the puzzle fragments slowly aligning. Sarah or Hope was in flight, fleeing something or someone. The mean man Lily had alluded to. Was he linked to Hope's vanishing? Was he still at large, still a looming threat? He understood he needed a delicate approach. Directly confronting Sarah risked frightening her, driving her and Lily back into the shadows. He needed corroboration, undeniable proof before he could act. He printed the Hope Ellis file, the missing woman's portrait staring back, a wordless appeal. He checked the clock.
3:17 nachts.
He should head home, seek some restorative sleep. But he was rooted to the spot. Not yet. He initiated a new search, entering the name of Hope Ellis's fiancé. He suspected this was just the opening chapter. Unmasking Hope. Riley parked a block from Sarah's building. The car's hot engine a soft counterpoint to the silence. The brick facade loomed, a weight settling in his gut. The morning had been a blur of aged documents, piecing together Hope Ellis's life with the reality of Sarah. The connections, stark and unsettling, refused to be ignored. A telltale scar, the matching age, her slender frame. Even the way she carried herself, a cautiousness, a slight jumpiness, echoed the original missing person report. He held the faded newspaper clipping, Hope Ellis's hesitant smile revealing a sadness that mirrored the woman upstairs. He inhaled deeply, the sharp tang of wet asphalt filling his senses. This had evolved beyond a domestic disturbance. It was about a woman haunted by a past clawing its way back. Each footfall toward the apartment was measured, his fingers tracing the outline of the photograph in his pocket. He rapped at the door, the sound muffled by the solid wood. Sarah opened it, surprise flickering in her eyes. Lily, clinging to a worn rabbit, peeked from behind her. "Officer Riley," Sarah greeted him, a guarded note in her tone. "Is anything wrong?" He offered a reassuring smile, projecting a sense of calm he didn't entirely feel. "Just checking in. Seeing how you both are." A pause hung in the air. Could I have a word? Alone. Lily, sensing the change, pressed closer to her mother. After a moment's hesitation, Sarah nodded, inviting him inside. The air was thick with the comforting aroma of cinnamon, laced with a faint metallic undercurrent he couldn't quite place. He stepped into the small living room, cataloging the details, the mismatched furniture, children's artwork clinging to the walls, the threadbare rug. He produced the photo, its slick surface cool against his fingertips. Sarah, I need to ask you something important, he began, his voice gentle but firm. He extended the image. Do you recognize this woman? Sarah's breath caught. Her eyes flickered to the photograph, then darted back to him. A storm of confusion and dawning dread brewing within them. The blood seemed to drain from her face, leaving it ashen. I don't understand, she stammered, barely audible. She stumbled back, hitting the edge of the sofa. Riley remained still, his gaze unwavering. Sarah, please. Just look. She squeezed her eyes shut, shaking her head vehemently.
No.
I can't. He lowered the photo slightly, his tone softening further. Sarah, this is Hope Ellis. She disappeared 10 years ago. And I think you are her. The words echoed in the small space, laden with unspoken weight. For a heartbeat she remained motionless, eyes squeezed shut, rigid. Then a tear breached her defenses, carving a path down her pale cheek. Slowly she opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. The raw terror he saw reflected there sent a jolt through him. It's me, she breathed, her voice fractured with emotion. I'm Hope. The floodgates opened. Tears gushed down her face, her body convulsing with silent sobs as she crumbled to her knees, burying her face in her hands. Lily, startled by her mother's despair, mirrored her cries, reaching out a small hand. Riley knelt beside her, his hand hovering uncertainly before settling on her trembling shoulder. He waited, allowing her the space to unravel, to absorb the shock. An eternity stretched before Sarah finally looked up, her face blotchy and raw. How did you find out? That's not important right now, Riley answered softly. What matters is that you're safe. And Lily is safe. She shook her head, her voice thick with unshed tears. I'm not safe. I'll never be safe. He'll find me. He always does. Who, Sarah? Who are you afraid of? She hesitated, her eyes darting around the room as if seeking an escape route. Finally she breathed a name laced with pure terror. Marcus. The name hung like a shroud. A cold wave of anger, of protectiveness washed over Riley. Marcus did this to you, didn't he? He pressed, his voice low and steady. He's why you're running. Sarah nodded, her frame racked with tremors. He controlled everything. My life. I escaped, changed my identity, tried to begin again. But he always discovers me. I imagined I was secure here. I believed I could shield Lily. She looked at her daughter, her eyes brimming with anguish. I can't permit him to take her. I can't. Riley squeezed her shoulder gently. He won't, Sarah. I promise you he won't. We are going to safeguard you both. He rose, helping Sarah to her feet. Tell me everything, Hope. Everything he did. Everything you remember. We need to understand what we're contending with. The shadow returns. Control was his drug, Sarah breathed, her voice a raw rasp after hours of stifled weeping. She huddled on the sofa's edge, the faded floral pattern lost in the encroaching dusk. Across from her, Riley sat poised, notepad open, pen in hand. Upstairs, Lily's peaceful slumber offered a fragile, rhythmic counterpoint to the room's oppressive mood. It had to be his way always. He dictated my friends, my wardrobe, even my diet. Subtle at first, mere suggestions, then outright demands. And when I disobeyed, the consequences escalated. Initially financial, then other things. A shiver racked her frame as she drew her knees tighter. He cut me off. Convinced me I was unworthy of anyone else, that my value hinged on him. Riley swallowed hard, his throat tight. He met her gaze, offering silent support. Did he physically harm you, Sarah? Her eyes darted away, snagging on a peeling section of wallpaper near the window. He was careful not to leave bruises often. The real damage was psychological. He exploited my vulnerabilities, twisting them against me. He weaponized my fears, threatening to take away everything I cherished. Her voice broke. Like Lily. Riley's fist clenched, the pen biting into his flesh. Did he ever mention his background? Family? Anything that could help us locate him? Sarah's headshake was emphatic. He was a wraith. He reveled in it. No history, no attachments. Just him and me. The jarring shriek of Riley's cell phone shattered the suffocating quiet. He glanced at the screen. Sergeant Miller. He retreated to the small porch, pulling the door shut. Miller. Riley, we've got a situation brewing at Maplewood Elementary. Some guy's causing a scene, demanding access to a student named Lily. Matches the description Sarah provided. Tall, dark hair, scar on his left hand. Ice flooded Riley's veins. Damn. Is he inside the school? Principal's stalling him in her office, says he's being uncooperative. We're en route, but it'll be a few minutes. Thought you deserved a heads up, given your involvement. Acknowledged. I'm on my way. Riley ended the call, his mind already a whirlwind of calculations. He slammed back into the house. Sarah looked up, her pupils dilated with terror. What is it? What's happening? Marcus is at Lily's school. The blood vanished from Sarah's face. She gasped, her hand flying to her chest. No, it can't be. He's found us. You need to stay here. Bolt the doors and don't open them unless it's me or a uniformed officer. Understood. Sarah nodded vehemently, tears coursing down her cheeks. Please, please keep her safe. Riley squeezed her shoulder, his grip resolute. I will. I promise you that. He bolted from the house, adrenaline surging. The drive to the school stretched into an agonizing eternity. Every stoplight, every dawdling vehicle, was a tormenting setback. He wrestled the steering wheel, his knuckles bone white. He had to get there in time. He had to shield Lily. Squealing into the school parking lot, he spotted 2 patrol cars angled haphazardly near the entrance. He leaped from his car, weapon drawn, as he approached the building. The main entrance was locked, but he could see through the glass. A gaunt figure stalked back and forth within the principal's office, his silhouette a dark menace against the sterile fluorescent glow. Even at this distance, Riley sensed the man's fury, his desperation radiating like heat. He tested the handle. Locked. He hammered on the glass. Police! Open the door. The pacing stopped. The figure pivoted, facing the entrance. Riley caught a glimpse of obsidian eyes, the rigid line of a jaw. Then a slow, deliberate smile twisted his features. He raised his left hand, displaying a ragged scar slashing across his wrist and knuckles. Marcus. He was here. And Lily was trapped inside. Hidden in the library. He's here, Riley breathed, his grip tightening on Sarah's arm. The school's cheerful yellow hallways suddenly felt like a death trap. He scanned the sea of brightly colored backpacks and chattering children, his senses on high alert. Mrs. Davis, her face etched with concern, appeared beside them, her voice low and urgent. Riley, what's happening? I saw you running. Marcus is here. He wants Lily. Riley's words were clipped, economical. He didn't have time for explanations, not detailed ones. We need to get them somewhere safe. Now. Mrs. Davis, bless her, didn't hesitate. Years of dealing with playground scrapes and childhood dramas had honed her instincts. The library. Back room. Come on. She led the way, her brisk pace belying the fear that undoubtedly churned within her. Riley kept a protective arm around Sarah, urging her forward while Lily, wide-eyed and silent, clung to her mother's hand. They moved against the current of students, a small group propelled by a shared, unspoken terror. The library offered a momentary sanctuary. The hushed atmosphere, usually a balm, now felt stifling, heavy with unspoken dread. Mrs. Davis ushered them towards a small, cluttered back room, ostensibly used for storage. Stacks of old textbooks leaned precariously against the walls, and dusty globes sat forgotten on shelves. It wasn't ideal, but it was hidden. In here, Mrs. Davis instructed, her voice barely a whisper. She pulled a rolling ladder in front of the doorway, camouflaging it slightly. Stay quiet. I'll lock the main door and tell the staff to initiate a lockdown. No one gets in or out without my say-so. Riley nodded, his gaze sweeping the cramped space. He checked his weapon, A silent promise to himself that he wouldn't let Marcus get near them. Sarah looked pale and drawn, her eyes darting nervously around the room. Lily, sensing her mother's distress, burrowed closer, her small hand clutching Sarah's jeans. "It's okay, Lilybug," Sarah whispered, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We're just playing a game. A very quiet game." Riley crouched down, meeting Lily's gaze. "That's right, Lily. A super secret game. You're a super secret agent. And this is your headquarters. Can you be very, very quiet for me, Agent Lily?" Lily, always eager to please, nodded solemnly. "Yes, sir." Mrs. Davis returned, her face grim. "The school is in lockdown. Police are on their way, Riley. But it might take them a few minutes." She paused, her gaze locking with his. "He was asking about Lily at the front desk. Said he was her father." Riley's jaw tightened. The manipulative bastard was already spinning his web of lies. "Thank you, Mrs. Davis. You've done more than enough. Just keep them safe, Riley. That's all that matters." She gave Sarah's shoulder a quick squeeze before disappearing back into the library. Silence descended upon the small room, broken only by the faint hum of the fluorescent lights and the frantic thumping of Riley's heart. He positioned himself near the doorway, his ears straining for any sound. Every creak of the floorboards, every muffled voice, sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The air grew thick with tension. Sarah sat huddled in a corner with Lily, whispering reassurances, her body trembling slightly. Riley watched them, his protective instincts screaming. He hated this. Hated that they were forced to hide, to live in fear. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the main library. Riley tensed, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. He heard raised voices, angry and insistent. "Marcus! He was here." "Where is she?" Marcus's voice boomed, clear even through the thick wooden door. "I know she's here. Sarah, bring me my daughter." Sarah flinched, her breath catching in her throat. Lily whimpered, burying her face in her mother's lap. Riley pressed his finger to his lips, signaling them to be silent. He crouched lower, his eyes fixed on the doorway, every muscle coiled and ready. He knew Marcus wouldn't give up easily. He would tear the school apart to get to Lily. And Riley was the only thing standing in his way. The banging on the library door grew louder, more insistent. The game, it seemed, was about to begin. Justice arrives. The pounding intensified, vibrations rattling the makeshift barricade. Impatience gnawed at Marcus, but Riley hushed him with a gesture, eyes darting between Sarah and Lily. Mrs. Davis's bookshelf was a flimsy shield against Marcus's rage. Riley, positioned as their bulwark, kept his sidearm low, hidden from Lily's view. He silently begged for the cavalry. A distant siren, like a rising crescendo, sparked a flare of hope amidst the dread. Sarah winced, drawing Lily closer. "It's all right," Riley whispered, his voice strained against the approaching wail. "They're here." Tires screeched, announcing the arrival of the first cruiser, swiftly followed by a brace more. Outside, authoritative voices barked orders, officers seizing control. Abruptly, the percussive assault on the backroom door ceased. "Police! Open up!" The command detonated in the tense air. Riley eased his weapon back into its holster. "That's them." Relief softened the harsh lines of his face. "Officer Riley inside. Backroom. We're okay." The splintering crash of the front doors being forced open echoed through the building. Heavy boots thumped closer, then a warning shout. "Stand clear." A brutal crack marked the bookshelf's final surrender. Two officers in full uniform stormed in, weapons raised, eyes sweeping the scene. They fixed on Riley, then the huddled figures of Sarah and Lily. One moved to secure the mother and daughter, gently leading them away from harm. His partner maintained his vigil at the doorway, rifle trained, guarding against any lingering threat. Officer Riley, the first officer's tone, while still sharp, had lost its aggressive edge. "Identify the suspect." "He was trying to force his way in," Riley indicated the ravaged barricade. "Marcus. He's after the girl." Even as he spoke, shouts and the static crackle of radios carried from outside, punctuated by a bestial roar that could only be Marcus. "We have him," the officer confirmed. "He won't trouble you again." The wave of relief that broke over Sarah was visible in the slump of her shoulders, the draining away of all resistance, leaving her fragile and trembling. Lily, sensing her mother's distress, gripped her leg tightly. "Sarah, are you hurt?" Riley asked, his voice thick with concern. She shook her head mutely, eyes glued to the shattered doorway, haunted by the specter of Marcus. The officer placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Ma'am, you and your daughter are safe. We're getting you out of here." As they were escorted out, Riley watched Marcus being led away in cuffs. His face, a mask of contorted fury, held eyes burning with a possessive hunger that chilled Riley to the bone. Even shackled, he exuded menace. Marcus locked eyes with Sarah, and Riley saw a flicker of pure terror ignite in her. A venomous promise twisted his lips as he snarled. "You can't protect her forever, Riley. She's mine." The officers tightened their hold, dragging him towards the exit, his words a lingering poison in the air, a premonition of battles yet to come. Outside, the school seethed with uniformed personnel. Anxious parents were arriving, their faces creased with worry as they hurried to retrieve their children. Though the lockdown was being lifted, the air remained thick with unease. Mrs. Thompson, the principal, approached Riley, her face ashen. "Officer Riley, what happened? Is everyone safe?" "Everyone's safe, Mrs. Thompson," Riley reassured her. "The suspect is in custody. Everything is going to be all right." He watched as Sarah and Lily were guided to a patrol car, an officer holding Lily's small hand. Sarah glanced back, her eyes meeting Riley's, a fleeting spark of gratitude mixed with a deep-seated fear that time alone could soothe. Riley knew this was far from over. Though Marcus was confined, the scars he had inflicted on Sarah and Lily would endure. Their journey to healing would be arduous, but for the first time in what felt like forever, they stood a chance. Justice had intervened, but the true struggle was only just beginning. He made a silent oath to stand by them, to help them navigate the troubled waters ahead, to ensure that Marcus's threats remained nothing more than the desperate, hate-fueled ravings of a man consumed by a need to control. A new beginning. The antiseptic tang of the hospital receded as they drove, yielding to the bracing clarity of dawn. In the back, Lily slept, her tiny features serene after days of turmoil. Riley stole a glance at Sarah. No hope in the passenger seat. The change was subtle, almost invisible, yet palpable. The defeated droop had lifted from her posture. The haunted depths of her gaze now held a spark of nascent hope. "Hope," Riley murmured, giving the name voice. "It fits." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. It's been so long since anyone used it. Sarah was. A mask. A bulwark. She circled the rim of her coffee cup, the rising steam haloing her fingers. "Thank you, David, for everything you've done." "Don't. I only did what anyone would." "No," she countered softly, a gentle shake of her head. "You went far beyond. You saw through the facade, past the terror. You saw me." He was at a loss for words, so he watched the road as the awakening sun splashed the sky with vibrant, fiery hues. "Almost there. The safe house is run privately. They handle situations like this." Hope nodded, her gaze drawn to the blurring scenery. And then, Riley said, "you begin again. You heal. You build a life with Lily free from that shadow." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Marcus is in custody, held tight, but he'll be a threat even then." "I know," she whispered, barely audible. "He'll never truly disappear. Exactly why this place is so fortified. Top-tier security, plus they'll assist with new identities if that's your choice. Fresh starts, new names." "New names," she echoed, as if tasting the unfamiliarity. "Perhaps Lily keeps hers." "It's lovely." His smile warmed. "That's your call, Hope? All of it is." Nestled in a quiet, unassuming neighborhood stood the safe house, a substantial two-story building with a broad lawn enclosed by a tall fence. It resembled any other family dwelling, which was the entire point. As they entered the driveway, a woman radiating warmth and kindness emerged. "Welcome, Hope Lily," she greeted, extending a hand.
I'm Eleanor.
"We've been awaiting your arrival." Lily stirred in the back, rubbing her eyes. "Mommy, we're here, sweetheart," Hope reassured her, turning around. "We're safe now." Eleanor led them inside, where the air was filled with soft light and the comforting scent of baking bread. It felt welcoming, a world away from the cold environment they'd escaped. Riley observed Lily's wide-eyed wonder, taking in the toys strewn across the living room rug and the children's artwork adorning the walls. "Other kids live here?" Hope asked, a trace of apprehension edging her tone. "Yes," Eleanor confirmed. "Children with stories like yours. It helps to know they aren't alone." Eleanor showed them to their rooms, a snug haven with twin beds, a bookshelf brimming with tales, and a window overlooking the garden. Lily dashed to the window, her nose almost touching the glass. "Look, Mommy. Blossoms." Hope's smile bloomed genuine and bright. "Yes, darling. Beautiful blossoms." Riley watched, a knot tightening in his chest. He knew this was only the dawn of a long, arduous journey, but for the first time in what felt like forever, Hope and Lily had a chance. A chance to mend, rebuild, to discover joy. "I should go," he managed, his voice roughened with emotion. "I'll check in soon." Hope faced him, her eyes luminous with gratitude. "Thank you, David. You gave us our lives back." He squeezed her hand, then knelt before Lily. "You be good, okay? Listen to your mommy." Lily nodded seriously, her gaze locked on his. "Will you visit?" "I promise," he said, his heart aching. "I'll be back." As he returned to his car, Riley couldn't dispel the sensation of leaving a piece of himself behind. He'd become so entangled in their lives, so driven to shield them, that letting go felt impossible. But he had to. They were secure now in capable hands. It was time for their new chapter to unfold. A new chapter painted with laughter, bathed in sunshine, and scented with the promise of hope. He backed out of the driveway, glancing back for a final glimpse. He saw Hope and Lily framed in the window, waving goodbye. He lifted his hand in response, a silent pledge to always be there for them, in whatever capacity he could. As he drove away, the image of their hopeful faces remained, a reminder of the good he could achieve, the difference he could create. The world still harbored darkness, but light persisted. And often one person was all it took to ignite it.